This episode of Southeast Iowa Today is brought to you by Griner Auto Body of Washington, Iowa, using state-of-the-art techniques and decades of experience to get your car back on the road after an accident. Car Doctor of Washington, Iowa. No matter who Frankensteined it, they can fix it, clean it, and customize it. McDonald Boatyard of Keota, Iowa, for all your farm equipment and auto recycling needs. For great food, it's Your Choice Family Restaurant of Wayland, Iowa. Open Tuesday through Sunday. Try the John Bain Sandwich on your next visit. Girling Repair of Winfield, Iowa. If your mower is dead, call Fred, your Husqvarna, Aaron's, and Gravely dealer. Fred also fixes and sells snowblowers. B&B Propane and the family of jet stops. CW Tree Trimming, LLC. We're into your trees, not your wallet. Serving all of Henry County and the surrounding area, and we offer a senior citizen and veteran discount. Dutch Market and Coffee Talk of Washington, Iowa. Dutch Market can handle all of your grocery needs. They even have a conference room that you can use for free. Coffee Talk's drive-thru is open and ready to serve you coffee, energy drinks, sandwiches, baked goods, and ice cream. They all present the award-winning Southeast Iowa Today. Here's the author of Christie's Journey, The Beat Goes On, and your host, John Bain.
Thank you, announcer Cody Roy of NewEnglandDukes.com for your golden pipes and wonderful introduction. As you know, if you are a regular viewer of this podcast, if Day Tripper Bob DeWitt is sharing the screen with me, we're day tripping, and it's 357 miles from Wayland, Iowa to Logansport, Indiana, and we are at the Fiberglass Freaks shop where they make Batmobiles, and owner Mark Raycup gives us a tour you're never going to forget. And if you are in line or in market for a Batmobile, you better call now. Bob, it's time to buy a lotto ticket.
I'm going to buy that on the way back to Wayland.
You're going back to Galesburg.
That's right.
Anyway,
I'm going back to Galesburg.
More right now at Fiberglass Freaks.
Hello, my name is Mark Raycup, and we are here at the Fiberglass Freaks Batmobile Factory. And
that's Bob DeWitt standing next to you.
It is.
I'm here.
Bob's been here before, Mark, and now I get a chance to be here and bring the Southeast Iowa Today with John Bain audience to Fiberglass Freaks.
Well, thanks so much for coming.
Give us a tour, please.
So these are our Batmobile replicas. We build them right here in Logansport, Indiana. This is a car that started, and it's about 30% completed at this point.
Wow.
We build them in fiberglass and out of molds in our building next door, and then we transport them over to here. Then the rough patches are ground out and then repaired with fiberglass mat and with resin. And then we look for air pockets, things like that, fill that with a fiberglass reinforced material as well. And we mount the car bodies to the chassis. And that's one of the things I wanted to talk about, is that we built my first Batmobile, as you recall, on a 74 Monte Carlo.
Right.
Back when I was 17 years old. Way too short a wheelbase and not the right chassis to use at all.
And it's the wrong manufacturer.
Wrong manufacturer. Then I built 25 more using Lincoln Town Cars. And that, I liked the lineage. The wheelbase was about right. The track width was about right. And we started running out of the parts to rebuild those cars. And we wanted to tear apart the chassis and get them sandblasted and powder coated, rebuilt with brand new steering, brand new brakes, and brand new suspension. And it was getting to the point where we can get them in onesies and twosies, but not have 10 of them on the shelf anymore.
Gotcha.
So we started building a custom-built chassis. And that's what we're using today. That way we have rack and pinion steering. We have disc brakes all the way around. We have air ride suspension with 3 different presets. Button 1 drops the car low for show. Button 2 is a good drive height. And button 3 is a good height to go up rampways into convention centers or into enclosed trailers, things like that.
The only way you come up with that is experience.
Yeah. And I built my first one back in 1983, so I've had a lot of experience building Batmobiles and driving Batmobiles, both.
And it sounds like you're building them the way Bruce Wayne would want them.
For sure. So the most popular drivetrain that's out there right now is the LS Corvette platform, and that's what we're putting in our cars today.
Okay.
So we start at 430 horsepower, and we've gone up to 625 horsepower in a Batmobile with rack and pinion steering, and it drives just like a brand new car. It is so cool.
That is way cool.
So at this point, after having mounted the floor pan, mounted the body to the floor pan, there are body bushings all the way around, about 14 contact points. Then we hinge the doors, the hood, and the trunk. And we have 9 points of articulation in the doors right now until we get closer to the tail end. So that way we still make adjustments for alignment. And we start cutting out the holes for the rocket exhaust tube out the back, the triple rocket tubes. Those were, everybody asked if the triple rocket tubes were connected to the exhaust on the car, and the answer is no. They were part of the anti-theft system. They shot Roman candles out the back of the car, as you recall.
Right.
And we don't recommend that on beautiful paint jobs. That's always a bad thing to put sparks on it.
Yeah.
Just ask Burt Ward about sparks and landing on him when he was sitting in the car, and pretending to be knocked out or acting as though he was knocked out. The triple rocket tubes that we have done, though, we've done confetti cannons, Fire 1, Fire 2, Fire 3 with bat-shaped confetti, water-soluble.
Nice.
We've also done a T-shirt launcher, so you can be in the middle of a parade, and pow! There goes a T-shirt.
That is cool. That is cool.
The dashboard was really unique on the Batmobile. It was 5 roll-top sections, just like a roll-top desk, only instead of made out of wood, ours are made out of aluminum. On the original car, they were made out of brass, and they flexed way too much, which is why it was so hard for them to open the doors.
Huh.
But made out of aluminum, we make them solid instead of being made out of 3 or 4 pieces like they did. And that way they glide right there on those guides really easily. 115 individually cut, milled, sanded, buffed, and polished pieces, John. It takes 8 weeks just to make the dashboard of one of our Batmobiles.
Wow.
There's 2,500 hours of labor that goes into each one. And every car that you're seeing in here, there's 2, 4, 6, 7 that are throughout the building. All of them are pre-sold, and we're working on all of them at the same time because the water has to lift all the boats. It can't lift one boat only.
Right.
So we work on all of them simultaneously.
So how big of a staff do you have working on these all at once?
We've got about 15 that work on the cars, but on a daily basis, we have the 2 main staff members that work here, but we have a mechanic that works off-site that does the mechanical and the electrical. Wow. And then we've got the upholsterers that are about an hour away that spend about 3 weeks on each car. We've got the guy sanding, buffing, and polishing the dashboard slats. He comes in, clocks in, and he's a hermit over in the building next door with the buffing machine. So it all depends on the day.
And I think I know the answer for you, but the other guys that are working on these, probably never imagined they'd be building Batmobiles when they grew up.
Not at all. So they can't even believe that somebody is actually doing that for a living.
Yeah.
And that's the main question I get when people say, are all of these ordered? And the answer is yes. I've got a waiting list of about 200 people that would love to own a Batmobile, but most of them don't have the patience to wait for one. They're hoping beyond hope that one's going to come up for sale or somebody's not going to make their payments and that they could just take over the payments on that car. And you don't understand the Batmobile mindset, though, if that's what they think.
Right.
Only 3 or 4 of these cars have ever come back up for resale in 22 years.
Well, my next question is going to be, if I win the Powerball on Wednesday, and I'm like a Powerball millionaire,
yes,
and I call you up and I say, Mark, how soon can I have a Batmobile? How long would it take?
About 3 years.
Okay.
That's post-COVID. Pre-COVID, we averaged about 2 years, but post-COVID, we're in the 3-year range just because drivetrains are really tough. At one time, we couldn't even get fiberglass resin, so we're backed up still from COVID days. We're still trying to catch that up.
Wow.
So, I don't sugarcoat things. Right. I want people to know from the get-go, right, this is art on wheels.
It is.
And you think about a Corvette. A Corvette is 1/3 the square footage of a Batmobile. The car is 18 feet 10 inches long. It's 84 inches wide. And we block sand the car at least 20 times every square inch of the car. And it all starts right here, right after it comes out of the mold. And we go on it with an air file for what we can reach. And then from that point on, it's all done by hand using the long blocks with the tubes that you see way over there.
Yeah.
And that is how we make these cars happen.
Wow. This is just incredible. As a car guy that I am myself, and as a Batman fan, this is podcast excellence, folks. This is Bob.
Yes.
Like I've said before, you've hit some home runs before, but this is a bat home run right here.
I've been excited about it since 2020 when I first came here. So
Yeah.
Little bit different than when you were here last.
And the museum was your original car was there,
right?
But it was mainly stud walls. It was a COVID escape from Illinois.
Yeah.
So we were able to do that in 2020.
Well, I'm
and
so glad you came.
You were nice enough to let my wife and I come, and we enjoyed it. And it was on my birthday, so it was my birthday present.
Well, this is a birthday present that goes on all year long, I'll tell you that.
So we go from here with the fiberglass repairs having been relatively wrapped up to doing a light skim of Bondo over the whole car, and then we start block sanding and priming the car. So we go through usually about 4 or 5 primes of the entire vehicle, and then we start gapping the hood, the trunk, and the doors to get those in really nice shape. And then from there, once we're into final prime, we send it off to the mechanic. He does his mechanical and electrical, brings it back to us. We might have to prime one more time, depending if there's any damage to the car during mechanical and electrical. And then we go into paint. And we'll talk about that when we round the door.
Now, I know somebody's watching right now that may not be as familiar with fiberglass freaks as others. Tell them how you're licensed and you're able to do this.
So DC Comics sent a spy to my shop pretending to be a customer. He liked what he saw, reported back to DC Comics that if they're ever going to license anybody, this is their words, not mine, that this is the guy. They said they liked the quality level of the work, they liked the accuracy level of the cars, that they were far exceeded what the Barris replicas were. And again, their words, not mine. And they said I would be a good ambassador for Batman because I love the character and that I really appreciate what Batman means to millions of people around the world. And they chose me. They chose me.
So you're just here doing your thing and somebody comes in, a spy, a DC
pretending
spy,
to be a customer.
Comic spy, and he reports back that this is the guy. This is who we want to be in business with.
So it started as a cease and desist, as these things often do. And then
what'd you think about that?
Oh, I was scared to death, of course.
I bet.
But I called them the day that it came in, and we talked about it. And I said, "Hi, this is Mark Rakup. I received a letter from you that said that I have to cease and desist because I'm not licensed. What does it take to become licensed?" No, we're not going to license anybody. It's never going to happen. I said, well, we're both in business. Let's make this a win-win. Yeah. I'll work with you. You work with me. Let's make this happen. Nope, we've discussed it internally. It's never going to happen. You should be scared and all of this kind of thing. I said, okay, well, when you change your mind, you come back and talk with me and we'll make this happen. So
good for you.
Tit for tat, back and forth with conversations between my attorneys. I hired the best ones out of the Midwest who happen to have offices in LA, by the way, Barnes and Thornburg. And we did very well holding our own. And then they suddenly changed course and then disappeared for about a year. I was over in England helping a guy build his Batmobile by mounting his car body to the chassis. My attorney calls and he says, "Mark, you're never going to believe this. DC Comics contacted us." And I said, "Uh-oh." And he said, "No, it's not uh-oh. They offered licensing." They said, "Do you think Mark would consider licensing?" And we're like, "Absolutely. Yes, please. That would be amazing." So I got the licensing. This was in September of 2010. And I waited a few days to make the official announcement. I sent out 200 press releases on Friday. Monday morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm sitting there by the phone expecting it to ring off the hook. Crickets all day long. I'm like, did I miss something? And then the news went viral at 10 p.m. in Australia. And the phone rang and rang and rang for like 6 months straight.
Wow.
TV news crews were coming in one after the other. So one was leaving as another one was coming in saying, is this a good time? Is this okay? Can we come in? And we were on all kinds of shows, of course, and interviews by radio stations left and right, naturally, as well. So I would get a phone call at 6, 7 in the morning. Hey, can we do an interview? I'm like, yeah, sure. But wow, what a blast!
What a blast indeed.
And then from here, you start to see more of the steel is taking place too, to strengthen the inside of the car and to provide some contact points for doing the wiring to give us good ground points. We ground from the steel onto the chassis at about 10 different points throughout the car. Because as a fiberglass car, you don't have those contact points, as you know.
Exactly.
The hood and the trunk open with electric actuators on our cars. And if you remember, there was a Catwoman episode where she knocked out the elevators. They were out of commission, right? And Batman had to reach into the rear package tray, press a button that didn't exist, and the trunk, the deck lid opened up by itself. Then he grabs the bat rockets, hits the button again, and it closes. Well, how'd they do it for real? Because they didn't have any of that kind of equipment back in those days. Well, we're looking at the #1 car after I did my interview with George in 2008. My buddy said, why are there struts welded to the hinges? Why are there cables that go through the floor pan? I said, I know exactly why. And they had stagehands off to the side pulling on it. They added the sound effect later of the whir of it opening and closing. Bam! It was perfect. And now the technology is caught up to the writers and directors, so we can do a lot of those special effects for real.
Wow.
The LCD screen on the dash, for instance, we can do that for real. We can do Bluetooth bat phone that blinks and beeps connected to your cell phone.
Nice.
So it's really neat. I was driving from here to Indianapolis to one of the conventions down there, and I got my first call for real, not a test, but a real call. And it's blinking and beeping. My buddy is in the car next to me and goes, should I answer it? I'm like, absolutely.
It's probably Commissioner Gordon.
Right. Oh, it was so much fun.
Now, speaking of fun, obviously your clientele is pretty affluent.
Yes.
And I'm sure there's some famous people that have purchased Batmobiles from you. Is it all right to tell us a couple people, or is it top secret?
Well, we'll back up just a tiny bit before we get to famous people to say that most of these guys are rags to riches type stories, that they've built up their own companies from little bitty working practically out of the garages to owning their own businesses and doing very, very well. They never have bought anything for themselves their whole lives. Their wives say, you're 50 years old, you're 60 years old, I want you to buy something for you. And they say, what have you always wanted? Even something you've always wanted since you were a kid.
I want a Batmobile.
You're going to laugh at me. No, I won't laugh at you. And he says, I want a 1966 Batmobile. And then the wife laughs, and then the wife does the research, finds our company, and then they call. And we end up in about a 2-hour conversation every single time.
Wow.
Which launches things, but they can't always commit right then because they might have to build a garage big enough to fit a Batmobile in.
Or a Bat Cave.
Right, or a Bat Cave like our guy in Arizona did that.
Wow.
And he does charity work for kids that have leukemia or they have burn victims, and he lets the parents drive the kids in their Batmobile.
How cool is that?
So the prerequisite, there's usually something that has to be done first. And then about 2 years later, that's when they pull the trigger. They come back aboard. There's almost no conversation at all. They say, I'm ready. And then bam, we're right into moving into contracts, deposits. And
then so basically from the start to the finish is about half a decade.
For them,
it
really truly is. So as far as famous people go, most of them are famous in different circles, like financial circles. We had one of the members from the Goldman Sachs family, for instance, ordered a car, and he uses it for charity out on the East Coast. But we do have a few people that are very famous. One of them is Jeff Dunham, the ventriloquist that does
I think I've heard of Jeff Dunham.
You may have heard of him.
Yeah.
He called and he said, "Hi, I'm Jeff Dunham. Do you happen to know who I am?" "Yes, sir, I know who you are." "Oh, good, because people either know 100% who I am or they have no clue who I am."
I thought maybe you'd have to do one of his characters to prove it's him.
Right, there you go. Perfect. So he had bought a car that we didn't build originally, but we rebuilt. So if you've seen the internet meme of the crashed Batmobile with the word kapow over top of it, that car was built by one of the black market builders, and but the owner did not want to take it back to him. He wanted to bring it to us. So we replaced the nose of the car, the front right quarter panel. We reattached the whole right side because it had broken off at every contact point.
Wow.
We did a ton of work to it, and then we were getting ready to block sand the car to paint. We thought, oh, we're just going to scuff it with 400, and then we'll be ready to shoot the whole car. Now, the body work's done on the front and the right front quarter. No, they did not body work it.
Oh.
They didn't take it down at all. So I got out the inline sander. I'm there with 180. Can't get the mounds down. Like, seriously, on the tops of the fins. So I went all the way down to 36 grit on a finished car. But I had to, because there's no way we could let a paint job go out like that.
No.
And we ended up doing an overall paint job. And then the owner decided, beyond what insurance was doing, he paid out of his own pocket for us to replace every single interior and exterior component of the car.
Whole new car then.
Right. The dashboard was held on by only 2 drywall screws, made of 3 pieces of aluminum that were taped together with foam tape, and they were separating and angled from the heat. You can't do that. You name it, and it was just wrong. There were so many things that were just so poorly done. It was built by a guy in California, and from the Hollywood prop mentality, it looked fine for camera.
Right.
Well, that's not what we do. It has to look good for you 6 inches away for it to be up to my standards and satisfactory. So that's what we did, and then my customer sold his car on to Jeff Dunham.
Okay.
Then Jeff bought a Lincoln Futura concept car replica that the late Bob Butts had made, and that's the call that I got from Jeff. Would we please replace the interior of his car? So that was a very exciting time for us, of course.
Yeah, that is amazing.
So from here, we can step into the next room over here.
All right.
I don't know, the chassis is under plastic, so it's probably not too picturesque.
Okay.
But this should be over here. As we're passing from one room into the other, you start to see the arches that are in construction over here.
Yes.
You see the seat buckets that will be painted, the inner door panels behind the metal brake over there.
Wow.
And then this car is in final prime, and it has just a little more work to do on the inside, the inner door panels. And I have to mount the windshields. I still need to finish that up. Excuse me. So it won't be too much longer, and then this will be going into the paint room. So it's pretty exciting. Drivetrain's already installed and is operational. We had 2 brothers that ordered Batmobiles. One wanted a Batmobile, one wanted a Futura.
Huh.
So this is our first ground-up Futura with a custom-built chassis, and that has a 525 horsepower LS3 Corvette engine in it, just like the Batmobile.
Well,
2 brothers have.
Folks that watch my podcast on a regular basis, I go to a lot of car shows, and when the hood's up and I can see the engine, I have to grunt. My wife hates it when I do it, but I do it anyway. And I see the hood's up, I got to go over there and grunt.
Sure.
I come all the way to Logansport,
Absolutely.
Indiana, and there's a Batmobile with its hood up.
And you start to see the differences between the Batmobile and the Futura.
Sorry.
That's quite all right. Hey, that's perfect.
I'm actually not sorry. I'm glad. I love doing that. This is the Futura.
So right, so the wheel wells we filled in, we cut out the headlight hoods, cut off the doors, cut off the scallops, and we're in the process of cutting back the hood scoop. I'm not quite satisfied, so it's going to cut back just a little bit further to make it more accurate.
Wow.
And it's more challenging to build a Futura on the outside of the car, but it's easier to build than a Batmobile for the interior of the car.
Interesting.
Because the Batmobile added all kinds of stuff on top of the Futura, whereas on the exterior of the car, they removed the bumper all the way around the car, for instance, and things like that.
Wow.
So it's
So
a lot
someday,
harder.
I'm assuming this car will be out in California driving around?
Michigan.
Michigan, okay.
Michigan. Mhm.
Okay.
So yeah, so it's pretty exciting.
That is exciting.
And under here, you see pieces of rocket exhaust tubes and steering wheels.
You can never have enough pieces of rocket exhaust tubes.
Right. My wife Jill is an artist, and we helped out a guy out of Indianapolis that was making his own Batman fan film. It was Star Trek versus Batman, so he combined two of the great universes.
Yes.
And this was the Joker's playroom. So she did the two really nice pieces of artwork. I did the one in the middle. I'm the guy that you have to take an opaque projector and project and trace.
Ah, okay.
And she can look at a picture and go, yep, that's what it looks like, without even looking where she's drawing.
Oh, those are cool. It definitely helps remind you what you're working on, doesn't it?
It sure does. And in this room, this is our paint room. It's not all that pretty or anything, but it gets the job done. So this is our 33rd car in the process of being painted. So we paint the red as a white swath first for the striping, and then we mask the striping, then we wet sand most of that red overspray off, and then we paint black, then we unmask, then we fix any red to black or black to red problems, then we clear coat. And we clear coat with about 3 to 4 heavy coats of clear, wet sand with 600, then do another 3 to 4 heavy coats of clear.
Wow.
Then start at 600 and go to 1200, go to 15, 2000, then we sometimes even go to 3000. Then
that's really fine.
Break out the electric buffer.
Wow.
Our goal, we go way past what a painter does. A painter will take a yardstick. If he can read the 36 in the reflection, he's a pretty happy camper.
Gotcha.
We want to read the street sign a block away in our paint jobs.
Wow.
So that is our goal.
You got some, are those finished doors there?
So they're not wet sanded and buffed, but they're final cleared.
Okay. I got to get a closer look at that.
So the door bats on the original car were a metal that were screwed to the car. And we have done that for customers if they request it. But normally we do a signed vinyl graphics underneath clear coat, so it has UV protection.
Well, earlier I asked you, about when I win the Powerball.
Yes.
I want them like this.
Like this, okay. Yeah, most people do.
You got to know what you want, Bob.
I'm planning on buying tickets on the way home.
Okay.
There you go. So it won't be too much longer, and this car will be completed, and then we'll start final assembly. And that's when it really starts to get exciting. When the car comes off of the lifts and jack stands and things like that, you put the wheels on for the first time. When I step around a corner, that's when I still get butterflies. After 22 years of building professionally, or 38 years of building them, actually longer than that, 40-something years since I built my first one, I still get butterflies. And we've met a lot of wonderful people at conventions and the like. You see somebody come around the corner and there are tears streaming down their face as they go, Batman was the best part of my life. I had a really rough childhood, and the family sat around the TV and they watched this show, and it was the one time where there was peace and harmony in the family. So it meant much more than just a show.
Yeah.
You drive a car like this past somebody, if they were having a bad day before, they're not having a bad day after.
No.
At least for a little bit. So you're spreading that kind of joy and that kind of happiness. It takes on a life of its own. You become a celebrity because of the Batmobile. So if you don't like attention, it's not the car for you, because you're going to get attention.
Yeah.
There was a gal that was dying from leukemia, And one of her last wishes was to have a ride in the Batmobile. Her mom was trying to get me to come to past Pennsylvania, somewhere on the east side of Pennsylvania, and I just couldn't do it. It was 26 degrees outside. It was in the middle of winter. I said, well, if you can make it to Logansport, I'd be happy to do that. So I brought in the news crews and the like, and we went for a drive, about a 20-minute drive, and she was hooping and hollering, having a great time. We came back in, and her mom had tears streaming down. I said, are you okay? What's wrong? Are you all right? She said, you don't understand. That's the first time she has smiled in 3 months.
Wow. Wow.
So then one of the best stories of all for me was there was an Iraqi vet that came back. An IED had blown up. He had 7 surgeries to put his abdomen back together. When he came home, it was about 4 or 5 in the morning, and he didn't have the hero's welcome that most of the vets were getting back in those days. So his family said, can we come up and just, sit in the Batmobile for a picture? I said, oh, no. Where are you going to be at this date, at this time? And, how many are going to be there and that kind of thing. And he told me, I said, okay, leave it to me. So I called the police. I called the news stations. I called some people to be there to make this as big a to-do as we could. And he steps out from Chi-Chi's restaurant in Indianapolis and goes, no way! He was interviewed by the news station, and then he sits in the Batmobile, huge fan of the show. And the policeman comes up to me and he says, you want to run some red lights? Like, yes, I do. I got to be that 2-year-old kid from 1967 driving the Batmobile with the beacon light running. We only get to do that in parades or in parking lots. And I got to run through red lights in the Batmobile.
Coming through, citizens.
Yeah. Everything comes around full circle, and it's so much fun.
That is incredible.
It really, truly is.
That is awesome. I am humbled and just amazed and appreciative of the tour that you gave us here today, and also the tour that you gave us earlier on another episode of the Batman Museum, Fiberglass Freaks Batman Museum here in Logansport. We're at 30 minutes of podcast excellence. You, sir, are just a walking encyclopedia of knowledge. And is there anything we should have talked about before we wrap this up?
The one mission that I have, in addition to the fun of building Batmobiles, is to talk about people, especially young people in their teens, is to talk about following your dreams. I'm living proof to say, yes, you can. You have 1,001 people say you can't do something. You don't have enough space. You don't have enough tools. You don't have enough time. You don't have enough money, experience, knowledge, whatever it is. If you listen to them, any one of those can knock your dream out of the park and you're done. You're over. But if you have enough willpower and a little help from above, you put that together and you really dive in deep, you can do anything. I'm living proof. I'm still making movies. I did 16 documentaries at the Gen Con Festival in Indianapolis, and I'm still building Batmobiles all of these years later. And just opened the museum. I mean, yeah, you want to talk about pinching yourself. Very blessed, and it's been a wonderful, wonderful roller coaster ride.
Well, I implore to people to share this, just to hear that message right there. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm glad I wore this shirt.
I am too.
This is the proper shirt when you go to Fiberglass Freaks in Logansport, Indiana, don't you think?
I think so.
Well, we're going to thank Mark Raycup one more time. And thank you for watching. And that's not your Batmobile. Your Batmobile is a little further down the line because you haven't called yet and ordered it. So anyway, I'm going to win the lotto, and I'll be calling Mark. Well, if I win the lotto, I'll just drive back out here and spend the day with him, buy him lunch, try and get him, move me up on his list a little bit. But Bob, thanks for hooking this up.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. And thank you for watching. And I need to thank my sponsors, Griner Auto Body Car Doctor, McDonald Boneyard, Your Choice Family Restaurant, Gerling Repair, B&B Propane, and the family of Jet Stops, CW Tree Trimming, LLC, Dutch Market, and Coffee Talk. He's Bob DeWitt. I'm John Bain. Stay friendly, Southeast Iowa.